Hey, welcome back to Save Your Sundays. This is Michael Pratt. Man, I'm excited to be here. I hope you caught my video last week. We were live on location, Save Your Sundays. We were enjoying a great time down at Heritage Lake. And man, when I think about it, those are the way that I want to spend all of my retirement days, right? Hanging out with friends, maybe a little boating, maybe a little swimming, just some cookouts, and really just kind of relaxing. So, hey, that's the purpose of why we're here, is to get you to that Sunday that's every day of your life in retirement. So if you've not subscribed, let me remind you again, click on the bell down there. It'll send you notifications as to when we upload new episodes, which is approximately every Sunday. So thank you for tuning in once again. I want to talk a little bit about recap from last week. So last week we had a 3-week episode on the financial death spiral, and people were extremely taken by that series. There were a lot of questions. There were a lot of inquisitions and a lot of curiosity as to kind of the last comment I made, which was about being relegated to a particular strategy. Well, that is definitely a one-on-one conversation, which I'd be glad to have with you. What I want to do is keep it high level and just kind of talk a little bit about protection. And the reason why I'm bringing up protection after that financial death spiral is this. Should you have something happen to you, you want to make sure that you're protected. We commonly use the term shield. What's your protection shield? What's in your protection shield? What makes up your protection shield? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You, as a human being, have a lot of things that can happen. You can get sick. You could become disabled. You could suffer from a premature death. You could be in a lawsuit. All of those things can be, in fact, protected. Not only protection for you, but protection for your family. So when we talk about the shield, we look at things like, do you have a will and a trust? Do you have the appropriate coverages on your car insurance? Do you have the appropriate coverage on your home? Do you have the appropriate coverage on you? And do you have the appropriate coverage on your income? All of those things can be solved. Well, the problem is people always ask, well, how much do I really need? How much do I need to make sure that my family is taken care of in the event that something happens? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you figure that out. There are some categories within that protection shield, like disability, which we'll follow up on at a later date. We're going to bring in a insurance expert with regards to property and casualty to talk to you about what are the appropriate automobile coverages. We'll bring in some legal to help you talk about how do you build a will, how do you build a trust, how do you protect your assets. I'm going to talk to you today about your economic life value, aka life insurance. What is your economic value? Now, people have varying opinions on why they need or don't need life insurance, but I'm going to ask you a simple question. Is your family taken care of if something happens to you? Think about that. And for how long? People do things like buy $50,000 cars and they insure them for $50,000. They buy $300,000 homes and they insure them for $300,000. So what's your economic value? How much should you, in fact, be insured for? Now, there's a variety of types of life insurance, and we're not going to talk about that today. We're just going to talk about the basics of what we define as an economic life value. Now, there are industry standards that talk about how much a particular person is worth over the course of their life. So there's a factor that comes into there, and that's your age or how many working years you have left. And then there is kind of your annual compensation. And so when you combine those two based on a factor that we use in the industry, then you have what we define as your economic life value, how much you're actually worth. Now, I say that, but the reality is you cannot put a price on life. To lose a loved one, whether it's known or unknown or an accident or ailing, it is a tragedy, and it definitely sends ripples throughout the family. So please don't misunderstand me. You cannot put an economic value on life. However, what you can do is calculate kind of what would help offset or what would help ease the burden in the event that something should happen to you. So I hope I'm pretty clear about that. Let me just say, I would never ever tell you to put a dollar amount on anyone's life. What I would tell you is there are ways to provide a shield or a protection in the event that something should happen to someone, so at least the family isn't put into a disparate disposition. Does that make sense? Okay, great. What are we doing? We're going to the board as usual. So the industry uses a standard when we talk about economic life value. So for example, up to age 30, you're at a 30 times your earned income multiplier. If you're between 31 and 40, you're at 25 times. Okay? If you're between 41 and 50, you're at 20 times. What that means is that an insurance company will, in fact, use these as a barometer or a measurement, if you will, when you're trying to determine your economic life value. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at that. Let's say that you make $100,000 in an annual salary and you are 28 years old, then you have an economic value of $3 million. Okay? Likewise, if you were the next age bracket, you would have an economic value of $2,500,000. Okay? Now, what that simply means is this. That means that is your earning potential for the number of working years that you have left. So when you're calculating, hey, how much life insurance do I really need? Well, this is a good barometer. Now, some people say, Michael, you got to be crazy. Do I really need insured for $3 million? Well, let's think about this. If you're 28 years old, let's use 30. Let's use 30 years old. If you're 30 years old, your economic value is 25. You make $100,000. That's $2.5 million a year. Okay? If you had to replace your home, average home, anywhere between $250,000 and $300,000, right? What's that drop you down to? Well, that drops you down to 2.2. What if you have 2 kids and you have to put them through college? How much is that? Well, let's say that you have 2 kids, $25,000 a year times 4 years, that's $100,000. Plus, you got 2 of them, so that's $200,000. Plus, that's if they went to school today, so they're not going to go to school for probably another couple of years. I think it's safe to say you can add that number up to $300,000 or even $400,000. What does that leave you? Well, that leaves you about $1.8 million. Okay? As you can see, it deteriorates very quickly when you start allocating all of the future expenses that you're going to have. So, you've got 1.8 left, right? Well, let's say that your spouse is 30 years old. If you do the math, right? If you do the math, that is what? 60,000? That means your spouse or your significant other has $60,000 to live off of for 30 years. So you've dramatically cut their cost of living by $40,000. So, the purpose of this exercise is this. You all have a value. You have a intricate value that could never be replaced by money. However, you also have an obligation to provide a shield for your family. You have an obligation to make sure that they're financially secure in the event that something should happen to you. I encourage you, take a look at your coverages. Give me a call. I'd be happy to walk through this exercise with you. Be happy to figure out exactly how much life insurance you have or how much life insurance you need. Hey, check it out. We're in our brand new Savior Sunday studios. My name is Michael Pratt. I want to thank you very much for subscribing and encouraging you to continue to listen. Hey, I'm out from the Savior Sunday studio. Be well, stay well. Thank you very much.